Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablan.
Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This episode of the Queen City Music Podcast is sponsored by Middle Sea Jazz, Charlotte's premier jazz club located at 300 South Brevard Street in Uptown Charlotte. Stop in for Thursday night jazz jams, gospel Sundays every third Sunday of the month, or bi-weekly Wednesdays for Remember Wednesdays. But if you prefer, stay in for the evening and watch their Saturday night live stream, where you'll have access to the best performances Middle Sea Jazz has to offer. And if you want the VIP treatment, get a Baby Grand membership, where life takes you to a higher note. Tickets are now available for A Night with world-renowned jazz pianist Alex Bugnan on November 5th and 6th. The Special Effects All-Stars with Celia Minucci, Elliot Yaman, Gerald Veasley, Eric Marienthal, Karen Briggs, Lau Tizer, and Joel Rosenblatt on November 11th. We're Still Standing, a reimagining of the music of Elton John and Billy Joel on November 12th through 14th. And an evening with Ace Livingston on November 20th. This month marks the 50th episode of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I'm happy to have it hit that milestone. The podcast has been going strong since 2017 with no plans of slowing down. Also, I've hit a personal milestone, and that is with the release of my new EP on October 29th entitled You and Me. You can find the EP on all streaming platforms. If you'd like to find out more about me and all the things I'm up to, you can head over to my website at MatthewAblan.com. And there's always a link in the show notes to make it easy for you. This month, to mark the 50th episode of the Queen City Music Podcast, I'm proud to be speaking with the Mood Kings, a rock trio featuring guitarist and singer Herman Ospina, bassist Joey Townsend, and drummer Mark Schwarze. The band's hallmarks are their great sense of melody and effortlessly poetic lyrics. Mood Kings, thank you for putting up with me and some technical glitches. It's great to have you here today, fellas.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
All right, let's get the party started. Fellas, are you originally from the Charlotte area? Herman, let's start with you.
Well, Matt, my journey just takes us back to the bustling metropolis of Bogota, Colombia, where I was born, and then I came to the great land of the United States at a young age, moved to North Carolina at around 7 or 8, and then met these guys shortly afterward and started the musical journey.
And once again, amazingly, no Spanish accent and no Southern accent.
No, barely an American accent.
As a matter of fact, you have a very fine German accent. I wonder how that happened. Mark, how about you?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Lumberton with these knuckleheads, but I live in Boone now. I've been there about 8 years, and loving it up there.
Joey, are you the Charlotte connection?
I'm the Charlotte connection. Lumberton was our childhood, but careers in life took me to Charlotte about 20 years ago now. Fell in love with Charlotte, been here ever since.
Oh, fantastic. So, what are your musical backgrounds? Joey, can we start with you? How'd you get involved with music?
Well, interestingly enough, it starts with the people in this room.
Okay.
Because we have, in some way, shape, or form, been playing music together for about 30 years.
Wow.
On or off in some way, shape, or form. I would say, for me personally, Herman was probably one of the influences on me because he was the young guy who got the guitar first.
Okay.
And I was like, I'd go to his house, he'd be playing guitar. And I was like, wow, that looks cool. And then he got in a little band, and I was like, I need to do that. So Joey went out and got a guitar. Bad decision, but I did it anyway. And I literally said, I want to be in a band too. That was cool. That looks like something I want to do as well. And that kind of started it as far as getting me going musically. That was the thing that inspired me.
Mark, how about you?
Yeah, actually, Herman has no influence on me.
Amazingly enough.
Also true.
But yeah, just kind of, I remember going to a 7th grade talent show, and there was a band playing there. It was Bolts. Which were like local heroes in Lumberton, and just seeing them play in the lights, and they were playing a Def Leppard song, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And from then on out has been pretty much, 100% full-time music. So
now the audience knows our age.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Herman, how about you?
Well,
what inspired you to pick up that guitar that Joe's talking about?
I had zero musical ambitions, and I was actually pursuing being the next Bruce Lee at the time. We were big on karate. And my mom came home with this beat up guitar that she got from some discount store. And she said, Herman, you're going to learn how to play the guitar. I want you to play the guitar. All my brothers play guitar. You're going to play guitar.
There's that Spanish accent.
There it is. I hated it. I took a few months worth of lessons and just did not take to it. Wow. And then I don't know what happened. Just something clicked and I was able to pick out little tunes. And then it just bit me where it was just became an obsession. I would sleep with the guitar. I'd play night and day with it. And, my mom was probably regretting that decision.
So just out of curiosity, what age is that at when you get bitten by the bug?
Maybe between 12 and 13, I think.
Mark?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think I was 13 when I saw that band for the first time. Yeah.
Joey?
15 at the latest.
There's something real curious to me. The more people I talk to doing this podcast, it's that age.
Yeah.
It's between 11 to 14 that people get. It's usually somewhere around 12 or 13. Something clicks with people. I don't know if you get into music at that point. You're in middle school. You start getting exposed to other stuff. But it's that point that it really seems to get people, and they get they can get obsessive about an instrument.
It's puberty.
It might well be. I don't know what it is.
Well, I see this band in 7th grade. I see the crowd going crazy, and there's something in my 13-year-old brain going
puberty.
Maybe puberty. I was like, I want
girls like this.
Girls like this.
I like girls.
I like girls. Ergo, let's start a band. Yeah,
that's what works. Yeah. That's how they do it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, how do we jump forward into the Mood Kings? How does that come about?
We did a one-off show. We've been doing different musical projects over the years. We do something together and then we'd split up and do other things. And Mark was moving from Lumberton to Boone, and so he got us together to do just a one-off thing.
Yeah, we're like our 80s band.
Yeah, sort of like this band that we're in back in the 80s.
Okay,
and
a little
we were like,
reunion show.
Let's reunite this band just for this one thing. It'd be fun. And it was fun. We did our thing. And then the dust settled on that, and we had a group text thing going at the time just to keep track of rehearsals and things. And Joey just popped up one day on the group text and said, hey, when are we going to write some songs? And it was like, yeah, that would be kind of cool. And we started kind of pooling our ideas together, and next thing we know, we had a name for it, and we were rehearsing, and it started turning into a thing, and it wasn't just a casual thing. So and it wasn't intentional. It really just happened.
So what's the official start date that you guys started, calling yourselves the Mood Kings, started writing music? Because me and Mark talked before you guys got here, and he had filled me in that the intention was just to always write original music. It was never to just hey, let's do a cover band. Right. And let's just get together on the weekends. It was let's do this.
Yeah, I would guess that the real work on the band started when I moved to Boone. So August 2014. So we're talking about, close to 7-8 years coming up on this thing now. And,
wow.
So it's been crazy because we didn't have a name for a long time. We weren't too worried about naming the band because we weren't even sure if it was a band. And then we started writing these songs and we're like, this is really good stuff, and let's go record. And we found Chris Gargis, and we went to Old House and recorded our first song, and we had a name. And
it's funny. It was very organic.
Okay.
It was very unplanned. And, there was a window. We had spent years playing music together in our 20s. And then everyone had their different projects and lives and careers took over. So when we got back 2014, it was kind of like, well, who are we musically now? And it was kind of interesting to see we were listening to the same things, very similar musical styles, different from what we were listening to then in this new form. And we're like, well, let's go with that and explore that a little bit. So it was as simple as that. We helped him move in. We took the guitars, we sat on the porch, and we just started playing some things. And it really wasn't. If it would have been a week, we had the first song cobbled together. Now, it was just the first song. Sure. It didn't anything we went on and used, but it excited us enough that we said, hey, let's keep doing that. Let's keep doing that.
So when you guys are getting together, was it I don't want to say it wasn't serious. You know, you guys say, let's just start writing some stuff. Let's write some songs. Did it start as a serious thing, or was it right from the get-go? Was it just kind of joking about, and then it started to become serious when you started writing, going, ooh, this kind of is going to work?
I think, you know, with us, we have such a history as friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, we know each other so well that, you know, jumping in bed with a musical project, it didn't feel formal. Like it would have with maybe other people we didn't know as well, where you're kind of like going, okay, what is this? Are we going to commit to this or not?
Right.
And if not, you just break it off and you never see those folks again.
Yeah.
This is more like, well, we're really close anyway, and this music stuff's happening. And I don't remember an actual sit down, and maybe you guys can correct me here, but I don't remember where we actually said, all right, this is what it is, and we're moving forward with this. It was more like it just kind of, you got in the car and just started driving, and with no particular destination, really.
Yeah, I think, you know, without getting too sentimental about it, we had this well, I'm going to get sentimental about it because we had this period of time where we really, I mean, we've always been in touch and, you know, connected to some degree.
Sure.
But we were certainly, you know,
different journeys,
before 2014, we were all living our own lives and would check in every now and again. It wasn't until after we kind of did this reunion show and you know, I moved and we decided that we were going to start pulling back together, that we started really talking on a daily basis, texting. We have this text stream. This text stream should be published as a book. It's hilarious. All kinds of crazy.
Wow. Did you save it?
Yeah.
Still there, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, and there's like song ideas, but then there's a lot of nonsense. Yeah. But, you know, I think for me, what was really powerful was just connecting back as friends first and foremost. And we did, I mean, you know, it was really, you know, just like when you got that kind of history with someone, it's just easy to get back into that groove. It was like it had never gone away. And then, you know, like Herman said, we didn't really talk about what this was going to be because we knew we were always going to have each other. So even if the music didn't take off into a band, we were still going to have each other. So there was no risk in it. And so we started putting out these songs and lyrics, and we had to do that because remember, Herman's in Lumberton and Joey's in Charlotte and I'm in Boone at this point, so we're having to figure out how we're going to write and get, you know, music together, and we're doing that using a variety of methods to do it. But
when you guys start doing it, so you're getting together as old friends, you start to decide, I'm going to start writing some original music. Do you have a long-term goal for it when you start, or is it just originally we're going to start writing music because you know, not to give anything away, you guys have a CD out and you've released a single and you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Are you guys thinking that, or are you thinking, hey man, it would be really fun if we got together, wrote some original stuff and had some fun? Or are you thinking, hey, you know, we could do this. We could put up a website. We could make videos. We could put out an album. We can do all this. Are you thinking that?
I think, you know, if it was just left up to me and Joe, everybody has their own roles in this thing. Yeah. And if it was just Joey and I think it would have just been me and Joey sitting on a porch playing music and really just being real like, wow, that was a cool song. Now you play me yours. And we just Mark, he's the force. He's the push. He's the vision guy. He's like, all right, boys, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And we get these texts or phone calls where we talk face to face, and it's like these directives are laid out. And it's great because it really is because he sees beyond what I see at least. I just see us, hey, this is a pretty cool tune. And Mark's like, here's what we need to do. Blah, 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 blah. And next thing I know, we're booking studio time or we're recording an album or we're filming a video or whatever. And it's like, wow. And part of me is like, this is like really beyond my, you know, what I can do. Or it seems so ambitious. But at the end of it, I'm like, I need to trust the process here because this is way cooler than I ever envisioned.
So Mark, you're the mastermind. Did you have this going in? Were you thinking it, or are you just like, let's see where this goes with original stuff, and then you start writing, going, man, we're writing some good stuff. We need to kind of move this along.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I think this is just a part of my personality, but I just always go big.
He's a driver.
And I just always go big in what I'm thinking about, and so you know, you mentioned that we had a CD. That just to tell you about how little we had it planned out. We put out a CD in 2018
on purpose.
I mean, on CD, where most people don't even have CD players anymore. So that's how little we really thought through a lot of the stuff that we did. And I knew that like Herman said, we were like, we're not sure where this is going, but I always knew it was like, this is going to be an album. We're going to have an album. And we're going to go play shows and we're going to do videos and we're going to put ourselves out there and we're learning a whole new wave of the music business because, here we are in 2018 putting out a CD. By the way, I have 800 of those sitting in my office at home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you want one, let me know. Anybody out there that wants a CD, we can mail you one for free. But because we didn't have the knowledge of streaming and the digital, and we came from the old school world and Joey especially has really very much so educated himself about the new wave of the music business and how we can best be part of that. So,
you know what? I'm actually in the same boat as you guys, and I'm 3 years after you guys. I just released an EP. I made CDs. I didn't make 800.
We made 1,500.
I didn't do that many, but
what I mean by ambitious.
But there's just something, and maybe it is being old school. There's just something about having a product, something physical to hold, as opposed to like it's in the air, and you're like, I want to be able to touch it. I want to be able to look at it. I want to be able to say, this is mine. I did this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
that was us. I mean, we had aspired to that. I mean, here's a real funny fact for you. The band we were originally in the 20s or earlier.
The 1920s? Wow. You guys are really old.
In the age range 20s, circa 87, we released our first single on a 45-inch vinyl record.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in 87, what's funny about that, it was like, no one's doing anything on a vinyl record. Cassettes, man. What do you think you're doing? So we did it then. Why not do it now?
And it was a hit.
But we were very much, to us, an album meant you had a physical media put in front of you. And, as funny as this sounds, when you release an album, especially these days, the companies that do that for you, they'll send you like a little plaque as evidence of
you mean like
release.
the one behind you?
Yeah. And I'm sorry. That was important to me. I was I wanted to see that, in my hand, the completion of something.
Yeah.
Because we'd had 20 years of varying little projects. Probably Mark, the most of us, had a lot of physical works that were put together in his other bands. But when three of us got back together, I joined in with them immediately. I was like, no, we're going to put something in my hand that says I completed this. I've never done a full-length record, but I am today. And that became the mission. And so I was kind of not distracted by why are you doing it on a CD if I can't play it part of the equation. It was more of the end result. To prove to myself that I could do a full-length record.
And that might be something with folks from our generation where we like a physical product. I mean, I have friends who are recording stuff and they're like, CD, why would I release a CD? And nobody's using that anymore. And I'm like, don't you want something, physical? And they're like, no. But to me, even still at this age, is like, that's important to me to have something to say, I did this.
Oddly enough, we said we're going to take the modern approach for the new single. All right. So the record was done in 2018. We just did the new single. And even then we did it and even have the video, but that's all out in, the webosphere.
Yeah.
So I ordered a little plaque that said the Mood Kings. I was like, there I have it in my hand.
It's real, damn it. It's real.
Slammed it on my desk and went, now that song is done. Now it's real.
Yeah. So, all right. So now since we're talking about the album and we're talking about, The Wonder of It All, which is the CD that you guys put out, it's the full-length album. So this is my next question. You're doing this album, you've got all these songs, and I don't know 3 years ago where the headspace was at, but that at that time people are putting out these full-length recordings, but now the trend is more EPs and singles. Were you guys thinking we should put out a full-length CD? Because, like I said, I put out an EP. Mm-hmm. You guys got the full-length album. Mm-hmm. But now people aren't putting full-length albums out unless they're like major recording artists.
Right. I think more than a sort of a marketing decision for us, that was about that we had all been in bands for so many years where we never really got to a place where we could put out a full length album.
Right.
I don't think that's true, right? Yeah. We all did EPs, and I mean, we all had multiple CDs and cassettes through the years, or whatever the medium was at the time. And we were just like, we want to do an album, and we want to say something from beginning to end with this album. And we weren't obviously, like I said, just sort of jokingly, we didn't have our eye on the pulse of the industry at that time, or whether people were even listening to albums or not.
It was all for us.
It was just one of the things that we wanted. We wanted to have an album.
What music is.
And we had enough. We had enough songs at the time. It was like, well, gosh, man, we can just
keep going.
We could record a full length.
Yeah.
So.
We've come to our senses a little bit more around that, and so that was the strategy. So we educated ourselves. We brought in some companies to help us manage this new single and video, and we had meetings with them to sort of get what was happening on the cutting edge of things. But I think our strategy moving forward will be singles and videos, visuals to go with the single.
That's had the biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah,
for us.
We've gotten
that single
more,
has done more for us as a video than the entire full length record.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about the wonder of it all, you guys sent me a track off of the wonder of it all. What's the track?
Oh, Texarkana.
Texarkana.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we take a listen to it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pack your bags, we leave tonight. Pull up stakes, the wells run dry. Take what's yours, leave the rest behind. Leave a note and tell her you'll be fine. The tank is full and the moon is high. Get some sleep now, we'll drive all night. Looking for salvation, crumbs of manna. Somewhere on the road to Texarkana. Don't look back, it's not your fault. Where we're going will be big
Fellas,
stars.
love that track. Love it. Actually, I've been listening to the whole album, but I like that particular track. So what's the songwriting process for you guys? How does that work? Herman, you being the guitar player and main singer, are you coming up with the melody and the chord changes and writing the songs, or is it a total group effort?
Not always. I mean, we, Joey sings as much as I do, and we all construct songs individually and just kind of pull them together. That particular song stemmed from an actual endeavor that Mark and I did back when we were 18 or 19.
Is that what we're going to call it? Endeavor?
It was an endeavor. It was an attempt. So we thought, hey, listen, we're not going to make it here in this small town in North Carolina. So we need to, if we're going to be big rock stars, we need to go to Texarkana. Apparently that's where it's happening.
Yep.
At least that was Mark's spiel to me. See, Mark's always been ambitious.
Idea guy.
Yeah. I'm the idea guy.
Yeah, and I was like,
That's where I
okay.
understand where the big bands came from,
Right.
Texarkana, right?
And so I withdrew all $150 out of my bank account, jumped in the car with him with our instruments and headed there. And about 6 to 8 weeks later, I came home about 15 pounds lighter and completely broke.
I stayed for 2 years though.
We lost everything there. We ended up in the apartment we were in. Yeah. No furniture, no electricity. Barely any food. We ate once a day. I mean, it was just it was just a very, I call it now a character building episode.
Oh, very nice.
So, when we started this project as the Mood Kings, obviously we're talking about old stuff. We're talking about this funny stuff, and that came up, Texarkana, wasn't that funny? And one day I was at the kitchen table just noodling around, and I came across those chords, the opening chord sequence, and then just shortly after that, just a little snippet of words, and I shared it with the guys. I said, and we had rehearsal that day, I was like, hey, we're working on something else. I was like, well, how about this? And I just tried like the first 15 seconds of it, and I don't think Mark will be embarrassed about this, but I looked over at him in the drum set, and he had this single. he had the you remember Iron Cody? You remember the guy who would Indian guy who would cry with trash?
Well, you had littered, so
he had this little tear. I was like, all right,
yeah.
So I guess it's the tune to work on. So
and I think
the truth is, he had something in his eye.
Yeah, I got something in my. It was, I did get emotional because, the song really. It is. Certainly about this trip, this dumb experiment that we did back in the day, but we, it's really a love story to a time when you can just go and be dumb or innocent enough, either one of those words, to just go out and try to do things. When you become an adult with responsibilities and mortgages and kids and all of that, you really second guess yourself all the time.
Sure.
And Herman and I, we jumped in this car and we drove halfway across the country to go be rock stars in a town where there is no music scene. And in our mind, we're like, we're getting away from here where we're at, and we're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we didn't question it. We just jumped in there, and on our drive there, I just remember just thinking, man, this is it. We're going to do something, And I just love I wish I always try to find places in my life now where I can get a little bit of that, back and just say, we're going to take risks. We're going to do things.
Yeah.
We put out an album in 2018 at, in our late 40s and just said, let's go back out there and try to have a voice in music at this age, so.
Yeah, but here's the thing that's wonderful about it. Hopefully. Mm-hmm. When you get to be in your 40s and hopefully you have a lot of crap behind you, and you have an actual income, it's nice to be able to do this, and it doesn't cost that much. You've got the money to do it together. You could buy the equipment you want. You can go play in the studio because you have hopefully that disposable income at this age where you can do it, and it makes it even more fun. There's a certain part when you're, in your teens or your 20s and you're starving doing it. Yeah, that's a great story, but I actually even think it's a better story when you're in your 40s or getting into your 50s and you're like, man, I've done all this other stuff. I'm going to get to have the second life, being a quote unquote rock star.
I would have to tell you that's exactly the case because everything's so much more accessible.
Yeah.
For one thing. And there's some disposable income. A lot of this we self-funded because this was our dream project.
Yeah.
That came together. But it was that, getting to go in the studio and you're going to hear us talk about Chris numerous times through this. I'm sure he's the fourth member of the band. But going into Old House and being able to do what we did was not something we could have done back when we were playing together originally.
Yeah.
It was, back then it was $100,000 to go to a studio.
Sure.
Of any kind of caliber. And to be able to release things not on something physical, that the fact that we could, release the new track and just click a button and the world can get access to it and we can easily tell them that it's there. Man, that's a deal changer for any musical, act out there now, which is why I'm kind of jealous of the 20-year-olds who have that in front of it or that available to them. I'm like, man, I hope you really appreciate what you have here to be able to create and get your music out of such a high quality. It was a struggle to get anything on anything recorded, let alone released.
If you look back to when we were kids, if you look back at some of the demos that people, they escape on the internet, you listen to the quality of the playing might be wonderful, but the demos are crap. Stuff you could record at home today.
Oh yeah.
Stellar.
With a computer and $100 software is amazing. Amazing.
The fact, yes. Now you got to take the time to learn how to use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know our limits. And we actually started to try to record that way. I was going to see if I could do it in a home studio. And I was like, it was just so time consuming.
It is.
That I was like, I don't have time to learn this. Let's just get the ideas down and figure out a way. And I reached out to the Charlotte community who are amazing. Mm-hmm. The Charlotte musical community is wonderful when you want advice, when you want ideas. And I just went on to the forums and went, hey guys, I need a studio. And they were, and a bunch of great engineers were named, but an overwhelming amount went Chris's way. And when we called him to do the first song, which we technically did release as a single, ultimately everything became the album in 2018. But
just so the audience is clear, we're talking about Chris Garges over at Old House Studio.
Chris Garges at Old House Studio, the fourth Mood King. Yes, for sure. For sure. The man responsible for the sound we were trying to get. And since I couldn't do that at home, we took it to Chris. So and that really pulled everything together and sealed the deal on us.
You guys did not know Chris before.
No.
And you hadn't even, had you heard of Old House?
No. He was a recommendation I got off of a Facebook group.
That's hysterical.
And so it was a cold call. And hey, Chris, I don't know anything about you, and he had me come down and hang out, and I felt immediately great about it. And I said, guys, let's go in here, and it's been the best experience.
Because I didn't know, I never met Chris before I did an interview with him. He's on a couple of the other month for the Queen City Music Podcast, but I had heard of Old House Studio, and I mean, maybe it was just me poking my nose around and always, just being a fly on the wall in some of the music communities and hearing certain names. But that's just funny to me that you hadn't heard his name, you hadn't heard Old House Studio or anything.
Up until this project, anything I was doing musically, was very small endeavors when I could. So I wasn't out looking and asking questions until, we rolled in and we said, we got us a song. Where are we going to record it? Then I started doing my research. Okay. And that's when Chris's name kept popping up.
I don't think you could find anybody better.
Hearing it.
Not no slight against anybody else in Charlotte, but I mean, you found a great guy.
Oh, yeah. Great guy. Great to work with. And the thing I love the most is he's super fast. The amount of things he can do in a short amount of time is a benefit to us in the recording process.
Sure.
But he's so interpretive. If I say, we're thinking this, he knows what amps to grab and what pedals to turn on to get the sound we're trying to describe. And it's so quick, we can name an artist or a guitar lick from a song, and 5 minutes later, Herman's set up with that. And, I mean, that's amazing because it took me hours to try to do that in the house because of what little I know. So that's worth every penny, for one thing.
Sure.
But there's so much knowledge in his toolkit that any kind of situation we've thrown at him, he's been able to take that and interpret it for us and give us, feedback and ideas as well. So it's been a pleasure. Always.
It's been a good working relationship because, and even though he doesn't act as a producer for us when we go and we're producing our own stuff, there's been times when he, like, Joey says, where he's taking, he's sort of moving the song in a direction based on some things he's hearing that we probably aren't even thinking about. Dust and Bone's a good example. That turned into a much bigger song, a much bigger chorus based on, than what we had written going in, and we're certainly happy with it. And that was Chris, like let's do this, let's try this, and like, oh yeah, we hadn't thought about that. Let's do that. So he's been great to work with, and he gets all our jokes too. So
that's important.
Yeah.
So since you brought it up, Dust and Bones, that's your most recent single. Why did you guys decide to just release a single instead of an EP or other things? Was there a choice behind it? Because the first album is 2018, so now you have a couple of year period between that and the release of Dust and Bones. What prompted the release of the singles as opposed to more songs and doing something bigger?
Yeah. Well, a lot has happened between 2018 and 2021. We had COVID. We had a, global pandemic. We've had, losses in our families, people that were really key and important, significant people in our lives that, passed away. And life got in the way for us. And so we released this album in 2018. But, so I think the production of songs that were ready to go into the studio slowed down quite a bit because of all of that happening. Okay. So we ended up into the studio, saying, well, let's get something new out. Let's get one song out. Right. Let's get something going. And that's where Dust and Bone came from.
And interestingly enough, there were about 4 we had completed right at the beginning of 2020. And we'd actually booked time with Chris to take one of those in.
Okay.
And COVID hit.
Yeah.
So we actually had them ready to do something beginning of 2020. Then studio shut down and everything. So they'd been sitting in the cooker for a while. So when things started opening up a little bit, we got back together and said, well, which one we're going to take? And we literally put the finishing touches on the arrangement for Dust and Bone probably the week before we hit the studio.
Okay.
And his doors were open. He was ready for business, and we rolled in there and knocked that one out. And what was nice was and this happens every time we go, what we build, when we start off sending snippets back and forth to the iPhone until we all get together and rehearse and finish the song, even what we finish in the writing process evolves in the studio. And that's the part I love the most, because that's when we take some final ideas sonically and apply them. And even with Texarkana being a great example, the violin came after we finished the song. Mm-hmm. We had actually put it to bed, and Mark said, I think we need something different. I think we need something else. And after recording of it, it felt kind of blank in a couple areas, and Chris was like, I know this great violinist. And we called Jane, and she came in and just knocked out that whole
Who's that,
violin.
Jane?
Jane Brindle.
Okay.
You may know her husband, Ron Brindle, who is
heard the name.
Quite a bass player in Charlotte, especially in the jazz and orchestral world. And Jane's amazing. She's with the Charlotte Symphony. And, she did a cold visit, walked into the studio with her for Texarkana. And, it's amazing to work with someone with such a musical acumen that they can, you can describe what you want without writing out musical notation. So she was kind enough to let me sit there, and I just sang the violin parts I had in my mind on what I felt should be there. And then she got the basic premise and then just did her thing. So Chris would hit record, and I would just say, pause here, move here, just with some movement and some gestures. She was kind enough to play along with me. And an hour later, that whole track was finished, and that was the final piece of that puzzle. That all came once we got in the studio. That wasn't even planned going in. And that's why I love going into a place like that rather than doing it at home, because you can have moments like that.
Sure. Can we take a listen to Dust and Bone?
Oh,
sure.
Yeah. Let's fire that
all
one.
Right.
I wonder if you'll read these words out loud alone or in a crowd without making a sound. It may come as a surprise to learn of my demise, but you never were that wise. Or was it my disguise? Saying goodbye for the last time, but you shouldn't feel alone. When we all die for the first time, we go back to dust and bone. She's sweeping up the floor while he's dusting up the shelves. Is this our true selves? Will they buy it if we sell? Headlights in the drive, quick put on your mask. If it's not too much to ask, how much longer will this last?
That was another fantastic track. Very Tom Petty-ish. Was that the vibe?
We've been hearing lots of different references, and one that's Tom Petty comes up a lot in our music. I mean, we're all influenced by Tom and love Tom, but Elvis Costello keeps popping up. And I don't know that I know 3 Elvis Costello songs. But
I think I know 2.
Yeah,
and I love his music, but I couldn't point to him as an influence. But I'll take it.
Well, I'm curious. I didn't ask you earlier when we were talking about it, but when you guys first got together, did you talk about a musical direction for the band, or did you?
I think we were thinking thematically, and what lyrics were being put down. What I appreciated, first off, whether whoever came from myself or Mark or Joey, whenever we looked at the lyrics, it was like, okay, we're writing about real stuff here. We're writing about we're not writing about chasing women and getting drunk. This is
why not?
We're dealing with it because we did that. We did that 20.
We gotta get back to that, boys.
we might circle back to that. I don't know.
We're gonna release that on cassette.
But things like just the angst of life and depression or death or hope. Love won and love lost. Things of those things. Those themes are really popping up.
Yeah,
and
different perspective as you get older, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I kind of lost my train of thought there. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
life,
thematically,
life lived entered into the lyrical writing part, and we really appreciated that we were all talking the same language. On that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we weren't thinking. Like, hey, it needs to sound like this or it needs to sound like that. I think once we started hearing some riffs or some chords on guitars, it really we just kind of jumped in the stream and just followed where it was going, where the current was going.
And that's the one thing I love about what we're doing. We don't put any restriction on what the type of music is going to be.
Right.
And right or wrong, this is a selfish endeavor for us, which is why it's less stressful for me.
Yeah.
Is that if this song feels like it needs to be this style of song, then we're going to let the song tell us that, and that's the song we're going to record. I'm not going to try to make, Dust and Bone the heavy rock song, and I'm not going to say Texarkana an Americana song.
Right.
I'm going to have both because they both influence me. I want them in the music that we do, and hopefully everyone can handle if we switch genre a little bit. I don't think it's significant, but if we switch genre a little bit, that's just because that's what the song is telling us needs to happen. You know what,
Joey, and you say that, it always reminds me that that's a problem in my head with today's music is that I feel like a lot of these artists, and you're talking mainstream artists, I'm not talking, local folks like us, they put out stuff and it's like, I've got to fit this mold. So everything is going to be this. It'll be like AC/DC syndrome. AC/DC is a great band, but it's like everything has to sound like this. And I think that's what gets lost. That's why you don't have bands like the Beatles or Led Zeppelin anymore, is because bands aren't mining that depth of their influence that they used to have. If you listen to the Beatles, I mean, the songs are not all the same. There's different influences in there. And then you get something like Led Zeppelin, and they're going from Led Zeppelin 3, this total acoustic album, and then you've got something else on, In Through the Outdoor, and then you've got like a country tune. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's all influences. And I appreciate that when I listen to folks who do that on their recordings, because it all mushes together and it sounds like the Mood Kings. It doesn't sound like one thing.
And that's what we want. We don't want it to be so narrow out of the gate.
Yeah.
I think Wonder of It All covers a few different things if you listen to the record in its entirety. And Dust and Bone feels different than the Wonder of It All record. But to me, it made absolute sense. But I also know very well the next song that we record and release is not going to be a Dust and Bone.
Yeah.
And I like that about you're not going to hear Dust and Bone again. It's going to be something a little different from that. And I'm okay with that.
So while we're talking about Dust and Bone, you guys have a video for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the video. Can you fill us in on how the video came about and the story behind it? Because I'm kind of not so bright sometimes. And I watched the whole thing and I got to the end and I was like, wait a minute, what was that?
Yeah. The whole video started, the whole idea came when we had a band meeting and the guys were like, Herman, you're so photogenic and so lovely to look at that we would love to have your face up on a big screen for at least 3 minutes. And I was like, well, okay, guys,
If you say so.
I think I missed that band meeting, but no, we
Joey, were you there?
Zoom call kind of disconnected.
It may have been. I think I was the only one there.
That Zoom call kept cutting in and out. Yeah. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah. We had this period of time where we had the album out and it had been out for a couple of years. At that point, we all that other stuff was going on, COVID and all this kind of personal stuff, and we had not really released anything. And we're like, let's go out, let's do a song, let's put a single out. And I said, yeah, let's do that. And let's also put out a video because we had lyric videos for our album that we did, sort of in-house. And they were okay. But we wanted to let's do a big production video. Let's bring in a company to do this thing. And let's make it like if we're going to release this song, let's have this accompanying visual with it.
And that's the power of Mark again, because me and Herman would have never even mentioned. Should we do a video? Oh, you mean like with our iPhones? That's as far as our headspace would have expanded.
Yeah.
Mark walked in and was like, this is what's happening with this song. I was like, it is? Okay. And I can't see the possibility as easy as he can. And that's why that's the importance of his role here is he does. And we kind of just, followed the lead on this one for sure. Yeah,
we talked a lot about ideas about what we wanted this thing to look like. And we, our first draft of what the video would be about ended up not being able to happen because I went too big. And so I had it in a performing arts center. Oh, wow. COVID, and normally we could have made that happen, but COVID shut it down because they didn't want us in, to the place that we had available to us. And so we just kind of whittled it down. I had a storyline in mind. I'd heard Herman wrote the lyrics to the song, so we've talked a lot about what he was thinking about when he was writing the song, and we kind of adapted that to some degree. It's really about loss. It's really about sort of people wearing masks in the world and being one way internally, one way internally, and then another way externally out in the world, and so we wrote up a couple of drafts on that. I kind of saw immediately once we got to that place, I saw the whole video shot by shot in my head. I storyboarded it, and we brought in a director, Tony Murnahan, who's done a great job for us. He's with Strong Tone Media out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we had him come in, and we had multiple production meetings, and we got it to where we wanted it. We shot it over 2 days. And brought in some actresses, had a producer, James Bass, that helped us out and got it done. And it looks great.
It does. It really looks spectacular. Didn't you guys up for some awards for that?
Interestingly enough. Surprisingly so. So what we discovered in working with Tony is that there are a lot of independent film, recognition-based festivals and awards things you can enter into. And he was like, here's how I normally do that. He said, I'm really proud of this video. We should get that in front of some people. So it is, and you got to understand the impact of Dust and Bone kind of shocked us, to be quite honest, because we went in, we finished the song. We was like, oh, it's a cool song. Then we went and recorded it, and we came out and we're like, wow, that turned out better than we thought. We should do something with it. Mark was like, we're going to make a video. Same thing happened. We finished the video and we walked out and we were like, wow, that was better than we expected. Mm-hmm. And we probably dropped the single on a Friday. By Sunday, I had, just off the initial reaction people were having, I went ahead and took Tony's advice and submitted through a number of those, performance art film festival. And I even took a stab. I threw one out at the John Lennon songwriting contest.
Wow.
I got a call Wednesday. This is 2 days after I submitted it from Brian Rothschild with the John Lennon contest and said, we love this song. We picked you as our weekly winner in the songwriting contest. Wow. We got a bunch of prizes for you guys. And we'd love to interview you on our Instagram channel. We're 5 days out putting this out into the world. And, our mind was blown. And then I start getting confirmations back in these film festivals. Mm-hmm. Hey, the video's made quarterfinals. Hey, the video's made semifinals. Hey, the video. And we're watching going, wow, what's going on? This is more than we expected. So we've had some great fortune and reaction. Mm-hmm. We won for music video in the Indie Film Festival. We recently won, I targeted some of the North Carolina ones. We recently won Best Music Video and Best Original Song in a Video for the Triangle, North Carolina Music Festival.
That's fantastic.
Film Festival. And they were sending me messages going, we're sitting around here in our offices playing Dust and Bone. I was like,
that's crazy.
What? And we're trying to wrap our head around it. So here we are 3 months after release, and tonight out at NC State, they're doing the Raleigh Film Festival, and we're in the finals for Best Music Video for that one.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're waiting to hear tonight. Being in the finals alone is great for us. We're going to brag about all these semis and quarters as well, but finals or beyond, if we land this one, it has far exceeded anything we were expecting, and it pretty much validated this guy. So, pointing at Mark.
I've been called a genius of my time.
It really did, because the video was the final push.
Yeah.
The single needed to really, resonate with people. And whatever you say, Mark, just tell me where to be.
That's great.
Yeah. We're excited about all of that attention. It's it was a lot to bring it from an idea to the actual production and get it done. Tony was great. We're going to continue to work with him. We're getting ready to figure out what we're going to do next. We've got so many songs in the works and a lot of them finished, but I've kind of I'm trying to convince them. I've settled on one song that actually Herman kind of put together in 1994.
Yeah.
And it was on a cassette 4-track that I think he laid down a demo of, and we got it digitally in our little archives. And I keep going back to this song, and the video that I have in mind for this song is going to take $100,000 to make. I can tell you, it's going to be,
I'll take everything I said.
It's going to be, I've got a concept for this song and a video for this song in mind, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get that out. But one of the cool things is, we've got a surprise for all our supporters out there that will be coming out on Thanksgiving. We can't talk about it here today, sorry, but
something's in the works.
Yeah, we got something really cool, a little fun surprise for our supporters to keep some music out there and some visuals out there that's going to come out on Thanksgiving Day.
Well, fantastic.
And a big thank you to our supporters, if I can, real quick. That's been part of the surprise. It was their initial reaction that spurred us on, and so we even threw our name in the hat for that 90 Seconds of Fame at WSG locally at the radio station. And all our supporters just overwhelmed their Facebook page going, Mood Kings, Dustin Bone, Mood Kings, Dustin Bone. We were not expecting that to happen.
Right.
We put it out there. Hey, they're asking, go in and vote to our supporters. And they reacted in a way that kind of surprised us yet again. So, if I can just stop for a second, thank you all you guys who have been doing that for us for this particular single. Unexpected, and we're thankful to have you in our lives. So
that's awesome. You got to thank the folks who help you.
It is. It's
important
because it was never intended to be a serious thing for us, and that kept the pressure off of us. But to have some people, some of these supporters have been supporting us since those 80s bands. It's some of the same crowd who've been stuck with us through thick and thin. That's the reminder I occasionally need to get. And I say some people really appreciate that we do this.
Yeah.
And all the more reason we should keep doing this too,
Of course, our families too put up with our nonsense.
Man.
It's very expensive. The Mood Kings has been very expensive and time consuming, but they've been there and supported us.
Yes, they have.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have that support because, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
They're just doing it all on their own. So, hey, guys, as we start to wrap things up, I know we talked about you have a surprise coming up in Thanksgiving for fans, but do you guys have anything coming up in the next couple of weeks? This podcast will be released right in November, so your fans, if they're listening to that podcast, they'll know what's coming up for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so just check out just go on to themoodkings.com on Thanksgiving or to any of our socials. Just type in the Mood Kings in Facebook or Instagram on Thanksgiving. There's going to be a cool little surprise there for everybody. In the meantime, we're going to be working on some recording, getting in with Chris, getting some studio dates set. There's no live shows planned for right now, but that's going to probably be something that we do. We had a big, huge show that we were planning for October 23rd, going back to our hometown in Lumberton. We had to postpone that. We're probably going to do that in April at a civic center there in Lumberton because of COVID situations. So we're just trying to be safe and make good decisions for live stuff right now. So we'll be hopefully pulling some new shows in 2022 to announce.
Fantastic.
Focus will be songs and studio though. That original music. That's where we're at.
Well, guys, thank you for coming on the Queen City Music Podcast. It was really a pleasure to have you.
You too,
and to meet you guys.
You as well, man.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Absolute
Enjoy
pleasure.
it.
All right, best of luck. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to episode 50 of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I hope you'll go back and listen to past episodes. You can find the QCMP on your favorite streaming platform. As always, if you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com, Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com, and Queen City Live at Instagram.com/ Facebook.com/Queen City Live Music. Until next month, be well and stay safe.